So the topic for this week is babies, which stems from a conversation that we had at the end of last week, talking to Jez and Nick, and it came up. We were just talking about mindfulness and bits and pieces, and we sort of started talking about babies. And I thought it was a good little conversation. I thought that's a suitable topic for a fuller discussion, and we can throw that around a little bit and see where we go with that. But we'll start with an exercise, shall we? Just to get us nicely in the moment. So let's begin. Just close your eyes and just take a moment to enjoy the ambient temperature in this church. And just be aware of the coolness. Be aware of that very faint movement of air against the skin. And become aware of the weight of your body sat on the seat. Bottom pressing down, perhaps your back in contact with the back of the chair. Your feet in contact with the floor. Be aware of taste. Aware of smell, and then become aware of sound. And for the next few moments, just follow sound as it happens. Be aware that the essence of the practice is just bringing the mind back to listening if it wanders. Being aware that it's wandered, being aware of where it's wandered to, and then just bringing it back. Letting go of that distraction and just bringing it back to listening. And as we started to do last week as well, just be aware of the silence. And even when sound is happening, be aware of the silence that underpins that, the silence out of which that sound emerges. And you can begin to become aware of a silent stillness that's within you, an internal silent stillness, that you can also connect with the external silent stillness. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. So last week, conversation got quite deep. And there were a lot of concepts floating about and ideas being bandied around. I suppose mainly coming from me. And of course, mindfulness isn't about, it's not about ideas and concepts. Mindfulness isn't a concept. It's about connecting with your being. It's a way of being. And it's incredibly easy for us as humans to connect only with our thoughts and our ideas. And live in our heads and believe very much that who we are is absolutely connected with what we think and what we feel and what our beliefs are. But of course it hasn't always been like that. There was a point when we were little tiny babies. Little tiny babies. Unable to speak, unable to have thoughts and ideas, as we know them now as adults. And yet, that was still us, wasn't it? That was us as a living being, a baby. And as a baby, we had awareness. We were aware, were we not? Babies are awareness it goes back to even when babies are in the womb. They play. For those of us that have been fortunate enough to be in contact with a pregnant lady, we know that the baby in the womb responds to sound. You can talk to an unborn baby and it will respond. You can see it move. They've done loads of scientific studies where they've played sounds. I used to play music to our children before they were born. But then they've done that and they've seen that babies respond to the same sounds, the same songs that they've heard. And that's why they respond to voices. They'll know their father's voice if their father's spoken to it in the womb. They'll recognise it. So even before babies emerge into the world, they have awareness. There is that awareness there. And so a baby is a living being. Us, when we were babies, that it was us. And that was before we developed the capacity to have beliefs and thoughts and ideas. But we had awareness. So where does it? What goes wrong? What goes wrong? Well, I suppose it is, isn't it? What goes wrong? What happens between just being this little thing that has awareness, is aware of its own needs? If it's hungry, it's aware that it's hungry, and it can communicate in the way that it, not even the way that it knows how to communicate, just in the way that is somehow hardwired into its being to tell us that it needs to be fed, that it needs some comfort, that it needs to be loved. You know, all of that is in there. It has the capacity to communicate, it has the capacity to be aware of those things. And then it goes from that point, where it is just awareness, to, you know, the point that perhaps we're all at now, where we think that we are our ideas, and we have all these ideas in our head, and we think that that's us. You know, something happens along between that.
I think it's called life.
It's called life. Yeah, well that's it. That's it. Well, it's not. Yeah. It's stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's stuff happens. Because we still have that same life. The life, you know, that made us alive as a baby is the same life that makes us alive as adults. But along the way we learn language. And as pardon?
That's what you're taught by your
Yeah,
parents.
that's it. We are taught things by our parents, by our peers, by the people that are our educators when we go to school, by the things that we, by the media, the things that we see on the television, the things that we read, and we develop all of these beliefs and highfalutin ideas about how we should be. And then, as a consequence, we become miserable and anxious and confused, and we end up going to mindfulness group meetings because or you know, or whatever, you know, we end up, you know, down the bookies, gambling, we end up down the pub, we end up, you know, doing whatever it is that we end up doing as a mechanism for coping. Exactly.
We're taught to do well for yourself and get more.
Yeah, that's it. We think that we need more, don't we?
Yeah.
People tell us that we need more, and then we begin to believe that message.
We need to get a good job,
Yeah.
get well educated, do well at school,
Yeah.
and if we do well at school, we'll be praised by whoever.
Yeah.
And then
This is cultural, isn't it?
but that's the teachings.
Yeah.
We're taught
Yeah.
by society, these are the things you should do.
Yeah. And then we get older and older and older, and we end up at the point where we are laying in a bed. We have to have somebody come and clean us up and feed us.
Goes full cycle.
Yeah, and you go bowl as well.
And we don't, we end up not that far removed from where we started off.
Full circle.
Yeah, which kind of leads me to question,
What's it all about?
what's the point of all that stuff in the middle? Exactly. What purpose did all that stuff in the middle have, when ultimately we begin and end in very similar states of being? And the point is, it is pointless. We don't need all that stuff in the middle. We lose track of the fact that, you know, in the beginning, at the end, we're just being. We're being alive. You know, and even though the baby probably doesn't understand gratitude, it probably is grateful that it's alive. And I'm sure when you get to the other end, you're grateful to be alive. And then, but in the middle, we forget all that. We lose sight of all of that. All this other stuff, it's all the stuff that we've just talked about, all those other ideas and beliefs and desires and things that we feel we have to achieve, all get in the way.
Especially when you tell you the off button.
Exactly.
And then you're not guided by any other shit.
Exactly right.
Because it is, it's like you watch the telly, you watch the news, it's like everybody got to follow suit. I don't watch it, it's like, I don't, it's depressing.
It
So
can
it is,
be.
and it's like what, it's like that little bit in between what you said. Why would you want to follow suit if you're not happy with that? Because that's what the government wants you to do. Follow everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's not news unless it's bad news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nothing good, is it? There's nothing like, you know what I mean, there's a big gathering of everybody sitting down, meditating, you know what I mean, being as one, and that is, there's nothing like that. It's always on about the immigrants over in Calais at the moment, jumping on the side of the lorries, or someone's killing one another. Yeah, well, it is, isn't it? There's nothing
Nothing
good on
positive.
No, and it all gets labelled. It all gets labelled
That's
as
right.
being bad. Because that's the thing as well. Going back to our infant, it is just aware. If you watch a small child, you know, my sister-in-law has a 6-month-old, so he's now at the point where he's sitting up. He doesn't really, you know, he doesn't say a lot. But he's there, and he's watching, and he's aware, and he looks at you, and he looks over there, and he looks back over again. He's still there. He's got awareness, and everything's new. You know, he's absolutely in the moment. He doesn't give a monkeys about what he did yesterday or even 5 minutes ago. Doesn't care that, you know, he's just had his nappy changed. If I want to go, I'm going to go. You can change it again for me. He doesn't care. You know, he's absolutely in the moment. He's just aware of what's going on around him, just soaking it all in like a sponge. And that is, it's kind of like, well, it's not kind of like, it's exactly like what a gentleman called John Kabat-Zinn talks about, which is having a beginner's mind. You know, if you can go through life with a beginner's mind, where everything is new, you know, as if it is the as if this is the first time you've been to mindfulness group. Because you know you've not been in this moment before. Sometimes it may feel like you've been in this moment before, but you haven't. But that's the other thing as well, isn't it? We think we've done it all before. We think, oh, and that's another problem that causes so much anxiety. Oh, I've done this before. Here we go again. Same old situation again. But it's not. You've not been in this moment before. So if you can bring that beginner's mind to every moment, and without all the labels, then that's you being mindful. That's being like the infant, just being in the moment, being awareness. Because you know, our little nephew, he doesn't go around labelling things at the moment. He doesn't have language. He doesn't know that that's ceiling, that's window. You know, he doesn't know. That will all come later. So at the moment he can't label anything. It's fantastic. Brilliant for him. It must be so nice. Just there's no labels. You know, nothing's good or bad particularly.
But there's a memory in this as well, because I mean, I can't remember a lot of kids stuff as a kid. I can't remember crying for milk or having a nappy change. I can't remember any of that stuff.
No.
And it's my earliest memory probably around school age, really. About 4 or 5, I suppose.
Oh, is that when you had the milk bottle and sat around the circle for your story and
Yeah.
at school?
So memory is something that
awareness,
memory is something that can be a good thing and a bad thing in that sense, because then we've constantly got this thing that we refer back to, constantly got this yardstick against which we measure everything else. And that again, that ties in with something that we spoke about last week, the fact that things that have happened in the past only exist as memories. They only exist in here as thoughts and ideas. They don't exist anymore. That time is gone. It only exists in our mind. So it's not reality. The only reality, the only truth, is this moment. And one final thing that I was going to mention, whilst we were talking about labelling, you know, there's my little nephew. Can't label anything at the moment. Just sits and is aware and watches and listens, and is nothing more than awareness, blissful awareness and mindfulness. But then we get older and we start trying to label things. But if you were to sit You know, if I was to think, right, I'm gonna record everything I see and hear and experience, I'm going to record it. I'm going to write it down. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it physically. You know, I'd need to be able to pause time. I probably couldn't even, if I were to pause this moment now, I would probably die before I'd recorded everything. You know, possibly even, you know, everything within this church. I couldn't do it. You know, I probably couldn't record everything that I can be aware of about one individual. You know, I could sit here and I could write every single thing down and try and do it. And I'd even if it froze time and I started doing it now, I would probably die before I could record it all.
You'd probably forget it anyway, halfway through, wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, probably would. Well, I'd need Nick to just stay in stasis, frozen in time. So that I could, you know, do this and use it like this, and I...
You could take a photograph.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't, you know...
Wouldn't get the vibe then, would you?
But you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it. So why do we even try? Because we try and... You know, and I'm not talking about, you know, taking photos to preserve moments for posterity and all that kind of stuff. I'm just talking about that need to label everything. To feel that if you're not recording it in some way, whether it's mentally or by some other mechanism, that you can't experience life that way. You just can't do it. You know, I can only experience life by just being aware of it, not trying to record it, not trying to stop it and analyse it all, because that's what happens, don't we? We try and analyse what's going on.
And prejudge.
Yeah, and then prejudge. And in doing all of that, you miss the moment. You're into another moment, and then another moment, and another moment, and you missed all those the ones that have gone before. You weren't present.
Yeah, it's just like the other day, it's like someone met me and one of my girlfriend's friends. He judged me because I had piercings and tattoo and I was in my camper. Labelled straight away.
Exactly. Yeah.
And she hadn't even spoken to me. Just labelled straight away. It looks a bit rough. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like, I've not even opened my mouth. Maybe sat there and talked to her. I was labelled straight away.
We all do it. Some of us try to do it less, but it still happens. But in doing that, we don't experience life. And you can't experience it, you know. And if I were to sit and try, as I was saying, if I were to sit and try and record what happens in a moment, in that moment, I can only be aware of recording it.
Yeah, you can't go back to what's happened.
And then I'll miss something else. So the point, if there is a point,
is embrace it.
The point is, be an infant and just be aware. Don't soil yourself.
Now you've spoiled it.
What was Steve Jobs saying?
Unless you want to.
Be foolish or be stupid or something, he said?
Yeah, probably.
It was like, go through life as though it's the first time you've ever done this, and ask questions like you've never done it before. You know, why do we do it like this, and why this and why that, you know? But it could be foolish, I think you just might.
It could well be. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that be inquisitive.
Yeah, it seems everybody seems to be caught up when they're in the thick of things, and they hold on to things. It's like I listen to a lot of Rajah Bhan, you know what I mean? It's like he says you can't change something that happened a minute ago, and don't hold it.
Don't hold on to it. Yeah, exactly. Just let go of it, because the infant is always learning and always inquisitive. And then as we get older and our ideas and our beliefs become set, we think that we know it all. And we don't need to be foolish and be inquisitive and ask questions. We think that will make us look stupid to ask questions. But, it doesn't. and certainly just being aware and being observant. That is a form of questioning in itself, isn't it? Just opening your eyes and looking around at what's going on in an open and inquisitive way is a form of questioning. And that in itself is that's being mindful. There's lots of aspects to it. We talked a lot about, especially recently, about stillness and the fact that the real you that is your awareness, not your thoughts, not your ideas, not your emotions, but just that pure awareness. That it has a stillness to it, and it has a silence to it, but it has an inquisitiveness to it as well. And it's that openness to just be inquisitive and be aware, and that's really getting to the essence of being mindful and being at peace. I suppose there should be something inquisitive about being at peace and being happy. It then opens you up to learning new things, doesn't it? And that's what it's all about. Always learning. Beginner's mind. Always open to new things. Okay. Good. Before we move on, does anybody have anything that they wish to add? I don't want to close that off unless if somebody has something that they wish to contribute. Don't feel you have to. I'm just opening it to the floor, not wanting to be rude.
So one of the thing that came to mind was about was babies, talking about babies being conscious and aware.
Yeah.
And what is the whole point of it? Well, maybe our point is just to produce more babies so they can be aware.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at it like that. Well, it's continuous. Yes, continuation of the species, and it's that continuation of awareness. If we want to get super spiritual about this, and
it's going to take a few generations.
Well, yeah, exactly. If we're going to get super spiritual about this, and the fact that we are not our thoughts and our ideas, the real you, the real living essence of your being, isn't even your body. It's something greater than
Just
that.
a shell, isn't it?
That's it. And that life and that awareness is something that is shared. It connects all of us. It's not something, my awareness kind of doesn't just belong to me. How can you own it anyway? How can you can't, only my awareness, only I can experience this moment, but my awareness doesn't belong to me. It's something that's shared. And it's shared between every living creature. This awareness of the present moment is shared across all the living creatures, and possibly bigger than that. All the different types of energy and all that kind of stuff. And so, yes, that continuation of the species is really just about continuation of our awareness, continuation of living things having the ability to be aware of present moments as they come.
One of you is going to be having
Two's enough.
Two's enough. Yeah, I've stopped at 2. 2's plenty.
Get the bricks out.
Yeah, and I've only got one, and I thought that was enough.
Okay, right. Let's breathe. Okay, so you may close your eyes if you wish. I'll bring the bowl around the front because I may invite the bowl to sound in a moment. You may close your eyes if you wish. And just bring your awareness to your breath. Just be aware of the air entering and leaving your body. And as we were just talking about that, we feel as if we're repeating ourselves. You could argue that the breath is repetitive. The air goes in, the air goes out. Then there's a pause, and then you do it again. There's a repetitive cycle to it. However, the breath that you are taking in this moment is the breath that you are taking in this moment. It's not a breath that you have previously enjoyed. It's not a breath that you have previously been aware of, or can be aware of again. So just follow the breath as it happens in and out. And for the next few moments, just breathe with the beginner's mind. As we breathe, I invite the bowl to sound. Yourself to relax into the stillness between breaths. And as you smile within that stillness and connect with the silent, still peace that exists in that moment, be aware of the fact that the real you, that is pure awareness, is absolutely perfect in every way. There is no room for improvement. The real you, that is pure awareness, that exists aware of this moment, is perfect. And now we breathe in and feel alive. We breathe out and smile at life. And then allow that smile to just dissolve into the pause between breaths. I gave you all an extra couple of minutes now. I opened my eyes, I looked around, and you all looked so peaceful. I thought, they look like they're enjoying that. I'll give them another couple of minutes. Well, thank you very much.